on regional and international issues. And this is our second conference in series on Afghanistan. The first one we had organized in collaboration with the Pakistan Study Center in September this year. And at that time, the Taliban had just taken over after the US withdrawal. And the political situation in Afghanistan was not very much clear. Although later on, the Taliban had announced an interim political setup and made it a little bit inclusive by including other minority groups such as the Tajiks, Uzbeks, Turkmens and the Hazaras. However, the sufferings of the common Afghans have not yet ended, and peace and stability are still a distant dream in Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, today's Afghanistan under the Taliban has been facing four major challenges which are different but interrelated. One is the quest for international recognition of their government. The international community is still reluctant to recognize the Taliban government and is suspicious about whether the Taliban have changed their attitude since the time they were in power over 20 years ago. Second, the state of internal security situation, which has become very alarming since the Taliban have taken over. The growing influence of the Islamic State and the recent terrorist incidents perpetrated by that group have undermined the Taliban's claim of restoring peace and stability after the decades of long war in the country. The third challenge is the economic fragility, which has been directly affecting the very society of Afghanistan and the effective functioning of the government, where humanitarian crisis is looming large. And lastly, the element of mistrust between the Taliban and the common Afghan people due to their harsh policies and the enforcement of Sharia in the Afghan society, which has changed in the last 20 years, and where how to deal with the young youth bulge, especially those who were born after the 9/11 incident and are better educated as well as have an exposure to the world at large due to the internet and other communication technologies. It's a fact that the conflict-stricken Afghanistan needs a political and economic stability, which is in the larger interest of not only the world at large, but also the region and particularly Pakistan, which has borne a heavy cost of unrest in Afghanistan. A peaceful Afghanistan will be a corridor of connectivity. During the recent visit of the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi to Afghanistan, the Taliban leadership has also ensured their complete support on projects of interest, including Casa 1000 project, the Tapi gas pipeline project and the Trans-National Railway project. This is a very positive development. However, much more needs to be done by the Taliban government in order to be the part of mainstream international community. So in order to have an understanding of the current scenario in Afghanistan, particularly after the Taliban takeover and its impact on Pakistan and the region, we have invited distinguished guests and scholars who will be sharing their vast research and practical experiences with us today. I am highly grateful to our distinguished speakers, Michael Kugelman, Dr. Greg Asen, who will be joining us online, and Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, Dr. Ashish Ali, Dr. Rashid Ahmed, Dr. Manzoor Ahmed, who have honored us with their presence here today. I am also thankful to my faculty members and students who have volunteered and helped us in organizing this conference. In the end, I would also say that the papers presented in today's conference will generate a healthy debate in our society and our students will learn a lot. Moreover, I also hope a lively question-answer session at the end of each session. Thank you.
Great relief that academic activities has been resumed after chaotic pandemic period. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe Afghanistan deserves peace as the country has suffered the destruction of war for several decades. The impact of war on Afghanistan has multiplied the challenges for Pakistan. As a neighboring country, Pakistan has always supported Afghanistan and continues to stand by the Afghans in these difficult times. However, it cannot be denied that the Taliban's takeover in Afghanistan has generated fear both within and across the country. Afghanistan economy, stability and reconstruction is the most important challenge not only for the Taliban but for the entire region. A politically and economically stable Afghanistan can reduce the burden on Pakistan. It is ironical that after Taliban take over, the major international donors have stopped funding the Afghanistan government. Earlier, 70% of Afghanistan budget was dependent on the international donors. Since the situation has changed now, there is need to explore other possibilities and opportunities. Pakistan requests the international community to come forward and help Afghanistan so that the economic crisis can be resolved. Pakistan also welcomed the pledge for more than 1.2 billion US dollars announced by the United Nations. Let's see how it's distributed in Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, we all believe that peace and prosperity in Afghanistan is directly linked with Pakistan. A turbulent Afghanistan is a constant threat to Pakistan, a peace and progress. Major concern of Pakistan with reference of Afghanistan include terrorist organization operating inside Afghanistan, influx of Afghan refugees in Pakistan, economic instability and violation of women's rights in the Taliban regime. Pakistan believes that formation of an inclusive government with the participation of all ethnicities in the most effective solutions in Afghanistan. We have invited many learned scholars today to enlighten our faculty members and students on Taliban, Afghanistan, its implication of Pakistan. Once again, I welcome to you all. Thank you very much.
Certainly give you, the students, the faculties, people like myself, further fuel to do research work and also to organize our thoughts as to what's going to happen in this entire region and what's going to happen in Pakistan. And that's the main worry. And that's why the head of the Department of International Relations has highlighted salient features of the points, those 5 points indicated. They definitely draw the attention of not only Pakistan, but also the region, rather beyond the world, I would say. And the Dean Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, all the important features of Afghanistan, the current situation and the impact on us and around us has also been highlighted. I would like to, in this 20 minutes, I would like to highlight some of the things which would have some practical aspects also. Why Afghanistan is very important? It's a pivotal country, we all know it. And Professor Naeem has just mentioned, and your Dean has also mentioned, the significance of Afghanistan. It's a pivotal country. It's a connectivity. If we have disturbances in Afghanistan, then this very region remains disturbed. And once this region remains disturbed, then in that case, we would not have the connectivity. And why connectivity is important? Because the entire economy, the trade, commerce, the untapped potentials are lying in this region. And the geopolitical situation which is emerging. See what is happening in the ocean, in the Indo-Pacific Ocean. How US, its allies, and China and its allies, they are trying to take position against each other. So bear that in your mind and see why it is important to have Afghanistan with them. So long as Afghanistan was occupied by the occupied forces or the United States and its allies, these regional countries at that time were very uncomfortable. They are uncomfortable now too because of the way the withdrawal was conducted. But if they had gone according to the schedule, if they had gone according to the conference which was taken place in Moscow last year and last year, in which United States was also one of the members, then perhaps this much of chaos would not have taken. Now, instead of going into the history, I don't want to really touch upon those features of First Anglo-Afghan War 1839 to 42, and Second Anglo-Afghan War 1879 to 1880, and then Soviet War 1979 to 1989, and then US NATO from 2001 to 2011. The last part of this probably would attract some interest among the students who have seen this happening now. The other three wars probably, obviously you can read in the history. So what was the common feature? Afghanistan, Afghan nation had never allowed any occupied forces to stay there continuously and be successful in their occupation. It never happened in first Afghan war, the second Afghan war, the Soviet, and also the history has now proved that how they had to withdraw. Withdrawal part, I'll just touch upon it only for a minute or two. The very mechanism under which the withdrawal had taken place. General Mark Milley, who is the Joint Chief of the Staff, says it's shameful. There are senators, they are criticizing. There are academia, there are researchers, analysts, they all are criticizing the way it was. We can identify that also, I think, during the subsequent course of our discussion or probably question answer as to why. Now let's come on what is happening to us. We should be more concerned about it, although we are connected with this world, globally, regionally, so we would definitely touch upon some of the points of the region as well. Now, Pakistan has always been collaborating, Pakistan has always been supporting, and Pakistan is still supporting Afghan political settlement. And as you heard the other two speakers, your Dean and your Head of the Department of National Affairs, that if Afghanistan is destabilized, Pakistan would have its direct impact and its spillover. We have seen, already we have about 3 million refugees. We can't afford to have more refugees.
Whatever country where the exodus of the refugees are lined up, then in that case, the countries are left with no option because they are the signatory of those multilateral agreements. So Pakistan is also one of the signatories of multilateral agreement. Despite those factors, despite the fact that we had provided our airspace to the United States, despite the fact that we had provided all the lines of communication, despite the fact that we were sharing intelligence with the United States, and still the blame game, what to talk of the United States? But even Afghan government, it was only day before yesterday, one of the ex-ambassador in Washington has conducted a press conference, started blaming Pakistan, that without Pakistan support, military support, Afghan Taliban would not have been able to take over. And of course we have given a rebuttal of it, and we have told them that, okay, if that was the case, then why there were 300,000 member of the security apparatus? Why did they surrender? Why did they evaporate? Why did they disappear? Was Pakistan there to convince them to disappear? And then there's a cigar report, Inspector General of the United States. He has issued more than 100 pages report and indicates about the corruption. The way corruption was taking place, Pakistan was not involved in that. It was against Pakistan, right? And this is the time we have to analyze why it happened. Haven't been able to properly, we have not been able to put across all these merits. The way we have suffered, about 80,000 people, they lived their life in this entire process of war against terrorism. Over $150 billion impact on Pakistan, both in cash and kind, the opportunity cost. So all this suffering, today, if you are having this problem of the cost of living and infrastructure development which has not taken place to that extent, it's all because we have suffered during all this period. And because of that suffering, our economy is not really that high. Now those 22 senators, what are they asking? They're asking that investigation should be conducted against Pakistan to see how the last 20 years, why American pressure did not work. Right, and this is what, I hope that the bill is not passed, but at least that has been initiated. Instead of acknowledging our sacrifices, if the United States is now thinking to sanction us, then in that case, we have to really reorganize our thinking. We have to readjust our foreign policy, and of course, we are trying, our government is also trying to do that. With all of a sudden, whatever resources were available, so people, World Food Organization and World Food Program, its director general, the top man, it says protect millions of Afghans from starvation, and 22.8 million Afghan, which is the half of the population, they are facing food insecurity. Imagine only 5% Afghan have means to have proper food. Rest of them are either having food insecurity or total scarcity of the food. So the World Food Program it says the catastrophe is now started and the countdown has just started. Regarding economy of the Afghanistan, the pledges. Yesterday I was speaking to my counterpart, the special envoy of Pakistan to Afghanistan. And I asked him a question. I said that in Doha conference, there were pledges made by the United States while they signed Doha agreement on the 29th of February last year. The United States had pledged that, okay, we'll have you removed from the sanction, which was the United States sanction, and the second, we will have Taliban removed from the United Nations sanction list, which is under Article 1267, the resolution of Security Council 1267, both containment program. And it has been said so many times from Trump right up to so many government functionaries in the United States, what do they want and how do they want this focus. Australia, UK and United States, they have really, very recently, they have entered into a military agreement, and that is totally detrimental to the interest of China. So on one side, that is the one. On the second side, a bigger question, and I'll just leave it there for the faculty and for the researchers here, after giving a little bit of my opinion, and that is it deliberate? It's almost more than 2 months, almost is going to be third month, 3 months that Taliban had taken over, winter has started. We know that starvation, we know that people would start dying, we know if we don't really release their funding, there might be a civil war. Once we know all these factors, and the entire world know all these factors, is still keeping quiet. So my question and what I think, that probably the way US and its allies, they like to have a controlled destabilization in this region, and once there is a controlled destabilization in this region, then the connectivity problem, the CPEC problem, the BRI problem would get hampered. That's one aspect. And second aspect is, if this entire area is destabilized, why control destabilization? That if the terrorism and the group of terrorism, if they do something, for example, East Turkmenistan movement in China, fine enough, Daesh, Russia and Central Asian countries, fine enough, Pakistan, if they do something, fine enough, yes. If they cross all these cross-continental area and reach US, perhaps that's where they want to put all their energies. But with all said, we have to make our own house very strong just to meet all these challenges. And unless we put our own house strong and in order, and if we do not remain in delusion and do not face the reality, then obviously tough time ahead. And I wish you all the luck that you all contribute in making our country strong. Thank you very much.
As well. I hope the speakers during the session, they will talk about the different aspects of Afghanistan. But my humble apology before talking about Afghanistan is let's focus about our foreign policy. And then we can talk about Afghanistan and what approach we have adopted. I think being a student of international relations, you people have more understanding about what foreign policy is all about. For me, foreign policy is based on rationality. And rationality is about national interest. When we talk about, let's talk about political settlement in Afghanistan, I think let's talk about political settlement in Pakistan. We tend to talk about other nations and we engage ourselves in an area which create more problem for us. I think our foreign policy was not based on rational interest when we adopted a foreign policy way back in 1979 with Soviet invasion in Afghanistan. We adopted a policy based on ideology that is called Islam ideology, the Islamic ideology. And we saw the influx of refugees in Pakistan. That influx of refugees in Pakistan created a problem of law and order, created a culture of Kalashnikov, promoted drugs in our society. When we talk about the refugees in Pakistan, let's have a comparative study. The Iranians, they're Islamic. The Afghan refugees were there in Afghanistan, but they treated them according to the UN resolution, the status of refugees in any country. ठीक है? मसला हमारा ये है कि हमने सब कुछ खोल दिया, ठीक है? And it created a real problem in Pakistan, the Talibanization in Pakistan. And that's why we are more concerned what is happening in Afghanistan. I think there is one common feature in terms of Afghanistan and Pakistan. For me, the major challenge is governance issue. You cannot have stability, you cannot have internal security, or you cannot have your economic growth and economic development relying on other countries without good governance. That is supposed to be a key component, right? I think we live in a region where we tend to talk about geostrategic and geoeconomic. पूरी दुनिया तब्दील हो चुकी है. It's about geoeconomics. It's no more about geopolitics. It's about geoeconomics. How you can have your economy, you can have progress in economy. Right? We have to take the responsibility. Right? And I think we need to safeguard our national interest. I think the speakers will talk about the other nations. When I was a student way back in 1989 or 88, I used to study Finland and its concept of neutrality. Even during the Cold War, East versus West, the ideological war, the capitalism versus communism, the Finland maintained its neutrality. And you can see how the Finland is playing a role in terms of its economic growth and in terms of international relations. Finland बहुत छोटा सा मुल्क, it's a very small country, right? So Afghanistan, I think for Pakistan, peace in Afghanistan is a very important requirement. If we have peace in Afghanistan, hopefully we will have peace in Pakistan. That's a basic lesson I have learned. So we have to play a positive role in international community. अभी speaker साहब ने कहा कि Pakistan has not recognized Taliban. I think we have to live with an international community. We cannot live in isolation. We cannot be Donald Trump. So I hope we have a very careful and a deliberate attempt to safeguard our interest, and I hope the speakers during the session, they will talk about what role Pakistan can play in terms of stabilization of peace in Afghanistan. What role we can have with the international community. The only message I have for my student is, it's about economic growth, it's about economic prosperity, it's about economy. I remember 20 years back in America, there was an American presidential election, and they used the slogan, "It's economy, stupid." So governance issue in Afghanistan is going to be a key component. And I think the refugees problem, if we fail to have stability in Afghanistan, it is going to create a problem of more Afghan refugees in Pakistan. And I firmly believe that we simply cannot afford more refugees in Pakistan. We have to take care of the welfare of our people. And Pakistan, what we need is not a security state in Pakistan. What we need is a welfare state in Pakistan. Thank you very much.